Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and we are back. Out of a big weekend for Spurs. Of course, Liverpool to come in the Premier League. We're going to be seeing a lot of Liverpool to come in these next few months. They're already giving people some nightmares. We'll be discussing those nightmares in this next hour of this show and more. Delighted to be joined by returning panellists, top tier panellists to Last Word on Spurs. Back with a new setup, back with a smile. Christina Zanders is back alongside me. Chris, how are you?
I'm great. I'm on such a high at the moment. I've just come back from the darts, so it was absolutely brilliant. Had my Madders sign. Here we go.
Read it out for the listeners and audio. Read it out for the listeners and audio, Chris.
I go Madders for the darts. Had to be for Maddison, who absolutely loves the darts himself. So yeah, if anyone's feeling a bit down with Tottenham, just stick on the darts. Honestly, it's absolutely brilliant.
Amen. A good distraction from Spurs in our lives. And back on the show, look, a man we always, to some degree, we turn to. I use that word therapy. And he says to me, look, Rick, it's not about therapy. I'm just bringing the balance to the show. It is the brilliant Simon Yemain returning to our panel. Si, lovely to have you back here. How are you? You're looking really wrapped up and warm, can I just say, for our listeners and audio. Si is looking like you'll want to be on a Friday night, can I just say. Wrapped up, warm, read a bit of Netflix and chill. Am I going to be over to TT's hairstyle?
Yeah, this is going to be an inside type of weekend. Nursing a return from a cold. As you can see here, I got my
soldiering.
World's greatest grandma mug here.
Oh, come on. What a guy.
Yeah. I'm feeling good. We're off to the. We just succeeded getting to the semi-final, so I'm absolutely buzzing.
Absolutely. We're going to get into that and more. Like I say, so I'd love to have you back on the show. And also back on the show, isn't it great to see this man, what I'm seeing on now YouTube, back posting semi-regularly, we'll say semi-regularly in the Spurs community, because I know, again, we can't go too overboard right now because there's a lot of things happening in the life of this man. The wonderful Sean Butler's back on Last One on Spurs. Shawnee, we've got that lovely chair in the background. We've got a great smile. Shawnee, how's things from your end? You okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Ricky. It's great to be back. Yeah, it's been a sort of stressful week, if you like. I didn't make it to the game last night because of the shenanigans that are affecting me, but we keep sort of carrying on anyway, and we got the result done. We're in the semi-final, and like I say, how else to sort of finish the week than to be on the wonderful Last Word on Spurs with these three fabulous people. It's great to see everyone. Shout out to the chat. Welcome to the chat.
Bless your heart, Shawnee. Thank you so much. I'm being asked, am I in the panic room? This was once the panic room. It's the in-laws' house, which I'm conscious if they're listening or watching this, that wouldn't have gone down well, that comment. So probably revert the panic room and maybe do something a bit more ambience. Maybe something a bit more, I don't know, a bit more like glamorous. It's mystic. This is what the Greeks' Cypriot households look like these days. I mean, Chris will back me up. Chris, this is a standard reform of what you will find in the Greek communities of North London. Is that fair to say, Chris? Back me up?
Oh, yeah. This is basically my room.
There you go. You heard it all first. Chris, thank you so much. We're going to try and steer you back on track to football chat. We'll try. Can't promise on this show. Look, it's been an interesting, fair to say, last 24, 40 hours for Spurs that, look, by hook or by crook, Spurs have secured themselves a semi-final place in the Carabao Cup. Wasn't easy at all. But look, it was a big night for Ange Postecoglou's Spurs. And we have to remind you again, 10 players out going into this one. Spurs still scoring 4 past Manchester United. And although at some degree there, Fraser Forster personally helped, he pushed the self-destruct button. Spurs did find a way to navigate their way through to a semi-final where it sets up a mouth-watering double-leg tie against Liverpool. Shawnee, I'm going to open up with you. Look, pretty good that we're recording the bonus show to previewing Liverpool in the Premier League now because we've had 40 hours to calm down. Sean, what's been your reaction to that win against Man United in the Carabao Cup? And have you finally been able to calm down and enjoy it? Shawnee, we'll ask you to unmute from your end.
Yeah. I purposely didn't put a video out after the show because I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. The last sort of 20 minutes, obviously, it being the proximity towards how you feel afterwards, you're going to maybe focus on some of that more than the kind of the first half. We were speaking about this backstage. For me, I think that it's the kind of typical Tottenham fan reaction to kind of look for the reasons to focus on the things that weren't perfect or weren't close to perfect and the things that that were closer to it, in the first half. I think we started really well. I didn't particularly necessarily agree with a lot of the commentary that I saw on TV. I think that some of the reflections around the first half were that Tottenham weren't great, but United were awful. I didn't think that either team let themselves down, apart from a few individual errors. I think that some of the football Tottenham put on was spectacular. When we click, I always say this, that Tottenham's the way that the framework of our system dictates that if the players are left to their own devices and sometimes calls on each player to kind of work in an unorthodox fashion, if it works, if they're on the same wavelength and the chemistry's on point, then it's unplayable. And I think we saw 5 or 6 different phases of play in that first half and the start of the second that were just out of this world. But then again, mixed in with that, you saw a lot of vulnerabilities and weaknesses, and I think that Tottenham were well worthy of the victory on the night. But it made for a fantastic spectacle, a great way to see the quarterfinals off. And look, if we can carry on with the consistent themes of the positives and just iron out some of the individual errors rather than the team issues, then I think that Tottenham have got every reason to look forward to Liverpool, not just on the weekend, but also in the semi-final.
Yeah, I totally agree on that, Sean. Like I say, it was a crazy, chaotic game, and I think it's fair to say that, look, we all would have taken advance in however possible, but I'm not sure if our hearts were ready for it. I mean, Chris, look, it has been a real up and down season so far. It's been full of a number of inconsistencies, but I've got to say that for me, I was fairly impressed with the performance Spurs actually put out there. And I have to say an agreement with Sean there that this narrative around Spurs' game management at that game, with respect, if Fraser Forster doesn't make the couple of errors that he does, I think Spurs see this game home comfortably. So I was really bemused by the reaction, definitely on the British side of broadcasting, that Spurs' game management in that game was appalling, because I think up until an hour, we had it spot on. What was your thoughts around the way Spurs approached the game and the way it panned out towards the end there? Because it was, I've got to be honest here, a crazy, chaotic end to a cup tie, which we had total control and dominance of at one point, Chris.
I mean, you said that like this season's been up and down. That game was literally up and down itself. It was insane. I mean, I thought we were brilliant in the first half. To be fair, we were brilliant throughout the game. It was just like you said, there was just some mistakes. And I hate to, pinpoint it just on Fraser, but there was issues there. And he's got to learn from that now, because he almost cost us the game. And it's such an important game for us as Tottenham. For me, I'm sure that a lot of other Spurs fans will agree. This cup game is what it's all about this season. I 100% feel that this is a priority for us. And we have a chance of it. We've beaten Man City. We've now beaten United. We can 100% do it if we focus on it and go and get those goals. And we are doing it at the moment. Look at us. We're 10th at the moment. The goal difference is insane. It's ridiculous. It's Tottenham Hotspur right there. So we are getting those goals. Yeah. But it's just, we need to make sure that we are consistent throughout the whole game. We're scoring those goals, when it is needed, 100%. It's just all about, I feel like, the intelligence on the pitch as well. I know with Ange at the moment, for me, I'm Angian, and I love the way that he plays. I love how we are playing at the moment. To me, it's all about Tottenham, going for it and attacking. But the boys on the pitch, they need to be a bit cleverer at the moment. If there's going to be moments where they feel that they need to go to a certain position, just go and do it, because that is your responsibility at the end of the day. There's got to be better football intelligence, I feel. But overall, I thought we played great, and it was phenomenal to see that goal from Sonny. I thought, with everything that's going on, with us with set pieces, and then for him to go and score straight from a corner was just absolutely phenomenal. And it was great. Look at the fans there, absolutely fantastic. It was a great atmosphere from what I heard. A lot of chants going on. Certain ones I'm sure that we will probably may mention later on in the show, but
I'm sure.
It was just great. And I just feel like it's a good start, considering we've got a lot of injuries at the moment, guys. We really need to remember that, and it's a lot of hard work, and this is fast-paced football that we are playing at the moment. So to me, I just feel like they did work very hard last night, and I felt we deserved it. I thoroughly think we deserved it. It was just a shame with those mistakes, which, Fraser, I feel like he has played actually very well in previous games
And,
at the
and even
moment.
up until he made the first mistake, Chris, he made a
Yeah.
wonderful save to deny United
100%.
getting back into the game.
I just don't want to pinpoint him and say like he's an issue, it's terrible, because he has been actually really good and he hasn't played that many games. Let's be honest,
No.
he's just come out of here and he's done all that. And yes, there was mistakes. Just learn from it. That's all I want to do. Learn from those mistakes and go out and give it your best. And that's what I hope now to see. So, and Vicario, please get well soon.
Yeah. Vic, like I say, on crutches. I mean, Andrew's actually asked about Vic's progress in regards to how far away he is, and he just said, look, he is making steady progress. You can understand at the moment, we don't really want to put a time frame on it because we know with Spurs' injury camp, which is now, I've got to say again, for those that have missed that news in the past couple of weeks, Spurs are once again, for the second season in a row, doing a review of their medical staff. I mean, what club does listen, you might argue you do an annual review of your medical department, but you'd like to think after doing it last season, do we really need to do it again? I mean, it's an argument we do need to do it again. So look, again, we'll make this point so I come over to you. A huge win for Tottenham and a lucky escape there, as Chris mentions, to see our path through to the semi-finals. I mentioned it sets up a lovely, a real mouth-watering glamour tie against Liverpool over 2 legs. And we can't get away from the fact, look, we are currently struggling without key players. And again, it goes back to Chris's point there, that have to learn their lesson from last night to have any hope in beating Liverpool. I know you are someone that's always generally a more glass half empty than half full kind of guy. I don't mind me saying that, Si. What were the takeaways from you from that game against Manchester United? And how pleased and proud are you to see this team advance to a cup semi-final?
I'm extremely proud. And I think you meant glass more half full, right? Than half empty?
My apologies. The other way around.
I just want the crowd out there to know.
It's been a long 24 hours.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. It's branding. It's
Put
all
me in
about
my
branding.
place, Si. Put me in my place. You go for it, please. Carry on.
No, but I was pleased, and I think there's 3 things here, right? It's what's actually happened in the game, and I think both Sean and Christina put it brilliantly with nuance and balance and what the performance actually was. And I think you mentioned it too, Ricky, which is we put out a good performance, especially considering all our injuries. We dominated most of that game in the sense of not conceding a lot of chances and having control and going up 3 goals. And then there was individual mistakes, and we saw that. And as again, Sean and Christina put out, there's a lot of context and a lot of things that you should take into account when you look at the actual performance. And then there's the media neutral reaction, which to me was just baseless and exaggerated and lazy and kind of ignorant. And you kind of just have to put that to the side. And I thought, and handled that brilliantly. He kind of guessed what they were saying and made fun of the general analysis of him and his approach to the game. So you put that aside, and then you have the grumblings from Spurs fans. And I think that this is kind of the most important part about I think a lot of people and a lot of fans saw that game the way Sean and Christina and I and you saw it, but I think there's people who will look at the way we play and the way we have injuries and a keeper like Forrester who might not excel in playing out from the back, and they will look at and they will say, why do you keep insisting on playing this way? I think part of that is them kind of buying into the media narrative, and they might just look at football a different way. And to that I'll just say, like, I think there's a really important part here, which is you can't chop and change every time you get an injury. And our focus and our coach's focus is the long term. And I saw this brilliant post, which I just want to read out quickly. It's from John Grinchen, who's a coach, who said, in response to Spurs and sticking to the plan, if the first thing you do in a crisis situation is to encourage players to abandon everything you worked on, you'll never get total buy-in from them. And he needs true believers, not reluctant conscripts. And to that point, I mean, if you look at the way we scored those 3 goals, that comes from how we play. So you don't get that without our system and us trying to keep the ball. and then you'll have situation where players will make mistakes. And if you look at the amount of goals we've scored since Ange came into our club, it's something like 120 plus goals.
Yep.
And we conceded 2 goals, and those came yesterday from goalkeepers making errors, playing out from the back. 2. So if you look at the benefits you get, and Ash speaks about this all the time, and you look at the downside, you can clearly see that the upside is much more impactful. So that's how I look at it. Looking at the long trends, where we're going, what's the aim of everything we're doing.
Yep.
And so, I think that's something fans who are still kind of frustrated with him not being pragmatic enough and not changing it up enough should have in mind, that there's a plan to this, and don't listen to the naysayers.
You know what's interesting, Si, on the point you're making there? Look, I have been at times this season a bit of a naysayer and called out when I do feel like, for example, the Chelsea game, where in that first half for me, it was way, way too chaotic. I think it needed somebody just to calm things down when we were going 2-0 up and just say, look, just keep the ball. And I know, Shawnee, you've also been an advocate of just showing a bit more element of game management. But I've got to be honest here, I will always try and call it as I see it. And I looked at that game in the Carabao Cup last night, and I just simply couldn't understand the lazy punditry after the game, a lot from the British media, that were referring to the fact that, we suddenly went gung-ho and we were the victims of our own downfall. The reality
and
is
he got that question today. He was like, can you play this gung-ho style against Liverpool? And I'm
going
like,
to hear from Andrew in a minute.
And like, gung-ho?
On this point side, on this point, I don't think he goes and, like he said in his presser last night, he doesn't go and tell the players to make the individual errors to put us under a sense of, a lack of control. The reality is that I don't think he had any control over what happened last night. The goalkeeper makes 2 errors, and suddenly we've got a game on our hands, because, as we all know at home, the atmosphere can change very, very quickly because of our inconsistency this season. I really do think, again, I'm happy to call it when I see it. And Shawnee, I'll come to you. I think, Shawnee, you've been very similar to me, that you've always, I think, been very fair when it comes to saying what needs to be said in terms of the game management and approach. But I will double down on the point that, for me, especially that game against, Man United, that was not down to an element of game management. That was down to the fact that players making individual errors, Shawnee. Is that right? And we'll get you to unmute on that point.
Yeah, I think the errors themselves obviously were individual primarily, and where I 100% agree with everything that's been said entirely. The only thing I would add, though, is I think that there were moments outside of the errors when the pressure was on us in that 20-minute spell outside of those 2 goals, when it was 3-2. There were moments where we carried on playing the same sort of essentially doing the same thing over and over again and continually making more and more mistakes from it. And at some point in that moment, in that scenario, somebody has to step up. One of the leaders on the pitch has to sort of step up and say, let's not be so robotic here. Ange's framework, as I interpret it anyway, I don't know if everyone agrees, but I interpret the system as there's quite a lot of abdication of responsibility, which maybe is a sort of a bad way of saying, over to you to figure out the specifics of how you get it done. I always see unorthodox movements, things you don't see every week, but you see 1 or 2 players here that are doing things that aren't necessarily part of the typical behavior of a player in their position, that's outside of the formation's kind of strategy. And so I do think there's a lot of that kind of over to you to see how it works out. Now, that has good bits to it and bad bits. The good bits are that when it works, it's unplayable. But there's also that notion that if that's the case, then why do you not extrapolate that idea out a little bit further? And when you're under the pressure unnecessarily, when you've just conceded 2 goals, and you know that Fraser's, obviously his confidence is crippling at the moment. He's obviously going through a bad spell in front of 70,000, 60,000 people. At some point, somebody else needs to say, all right, stop playing it back, or kick it long if it does come back. Just get the ball out for the time being. And that's the only area where I would say that I had an issue with the players' efforts outside of those moments. I think for the most part, it was 2 issues that caused us problems. And the rest of the game was great with us. When we had the ball, it was fantastic. But just in that little 20-minute spell, I would have liked to have seen a Bissouma or a Maddison, a Kulusevski, a Sonny, someone who's a senior player at the top end of the pitch, stop passing the ball back to the midfield, who passed it back further to a young defence who were, makeshift defence, an 18-year-old who's playing out of position anyway, who then obviously wants to get it back again and play it back to the keeper who's already, shy of confidence because of what's happened. It needed someone to step in and do something different, but that's the only criticism I have of the outside of those two individual errors.
Shawnee, just sticking with you, in terms of all that draw is now thrown up for Spurs. Look, we mentioned a real glamour tie, and it's turning our emphasis towards Liverpool now, of course, what we've got this weekend. Those ties to be played over the course of the week commencing January 6th and February the 3rd, that second leg tie. Tottenham obviously having Liverpool at home first. It does mean, with regards to the away leg in Anfield, we know our record there isn't great. I mean, Sean, I just think when it comes to this part of the draw now, I mean, you have to take what it is, right? There's going to be no easy games between here and a final. How do you view that game how do you view both legs for you in terms of Spurs having to be at home first and away in the second leg? Does it really change your feelings on the game?
No, in terms of the home first, I don't mind that. I think, I think that playing away second leg would be beneficial as long as you're still in the tie. At Liverpool, at Anfield, it's a difficult place to play. But for what it's worth, and I know we're going to obviously talk a lot about Sunday as well, Tottenham against Liverpool, whilst we haven't necessarily always been on the right side of the result in recent years, the performances that we put in against them have always been fairly consistently high, in my opinion. And I think that at Anfield specifically, we've usually had plenty of chances during those games to be able to get more out of the game than we have done in terms of points on the board. I mean, last season, I think it was 4-3. Obviously, we shot ourselves in the foot early, but we came back and it was an interesting kind of sort of last 25 minutes. I don't think the gap between Liverpool and Tottenham in the matches really does reflect the overall scorelines that you've seen over the years. And so in the Cup, it comes down to taking your chances on the night and hopefully that you iron out any kind of deficiencies over two legs. Look, at home, I fancy us against anybody. And for what it's worth, against Liverpool, who are a team that do want to play their football, that kind of plays into our hands. Of the three options that we could have got, I probably would have liked to have had Arsenal, if I'm entirely honest, and then Newcastle second and probably Liverpool third. But listen, I don't think there's that much difference. I think all three ties are very difficult away from home, and I think all three ties are winnable at home. It just comes down to how we are in injuries, how we shape up as a squad in early January, and also, of course, like I say, it's down to moments, individual performances, and making sure that the chemistry and the wavelength are on it. And for what it's worth, just to round off quickly, I know Chris mentioned it at the start. The fans last night were, I think, an absolute rock star of a sort of 12th man. I think that in that moment when we were kind of slipping and you could see that the nervousness was kind of, eking into our system, I didn't really feel, from the TV at least, I didn't really get the impression that there was the amount of nervousness within the fans that would normally be. I think that they got behind the TV when United had the corners. When it was 3-2, we were singing "Come on, you Spurs." It was an absolutely brilliant effort from them, and we need that kind of level of support not only on Sunday but also in the first leg of the Liverpool game and for every other game that we're playing. I think that it makes such a difference when the fans are behind the team and there's none of the kind of the fussiness about it. Then it has a significant impact, and I think we have to try and maintain that level if we can.
Yeah, sure. I echo those thoughts. I thought the fans were absolutely tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. And I totally agree with you that when we are like that in unison, that does feel like an absolute 12th man, it's fair to say. Chris, just on that draw, look, Anne just said we're in the hat, which is the main thing. It's an exciting fixture. There's no doubt about that. I could be wrong, but in the recent history of the Carabao Cup, it's even been won by Man City or Liverpool. We'll have to beat all of them to get through. It's a great draw for us. Obviously, for Ange Postecoglou, it's a two-legged tie against his boyhood club. Was it your pick of the teams we would have? I mean, what's your feeling on that draw for you? You're wincing there.
I mean, first of all, I would prefer us to play at home for the second leg. Well, because whatever that result is, then we can go at home and then just boom. I just feel like playing at home at the second leg is more important. But for me, I would have rather had Newcastle, but also if Newcastle are able to beat Arsenal and we lose, I'd rather have Newcastle go ahead and do it. It's just, I don't think you can get any better. Like, there's nothing. I'll be honest with you.
I think St James's Park would have been just as tough for us as Anfield. I mean, our record at St James's Park isn't great either. 100%. I agree with you. I mean, we have to listen. Whatever happens, we have to. The funny thing is, and I said this on the show we did last night, that Spurs are a side that, because of the nature of the Carabao Cup and the way this competition is seen, and certainly come back on this, Chris, Spurs could go and beat in this competition, Man United, Man City, knock out Liverpool, then face Arsenal in a final. Then you'd have fans of opposition clubs turning around to you saying, it was only the Carabao Cup, but you've just beaten 4 of the 5 biggest teams in English football to go and win it. I mean, you could have made it up, right?
I mean, we've always said it as well. You have to beat the beast, the best, in order for you to win it. So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, if we go through that run and we absolutely we nail it and win it, that is a
Yeah.
phenomenal run that we have done, considering our
Yep.
situation at the moment with injuries.
Totally
You
agree.
know, we've all
Yep.
got youngsters at the moment who are not even got that much, experience. It's a phenomenal thing to say, especially
Yep.
under Ange as well. But that is just how it is. That is how the cup. That's how it goes. You have to be able to beat these teams in order
Yep.
for you to win it. So I just hope now with Liverpool's situation, I'm not sure with how it's going to be injury wise. In January, if there's going to
Yep.
be some injuries with Liverpool, and also in a situation with them at the moment, because I'm sure that they're going to be going for the title. So for them, it may not be that important to them. So who knows what it's going to be like during that time in January. It might actually be a blessing in disguise for us, but who knows? But we just have to go out there and do it, because I've said it so many times, guys, this is a priority. We have to win a trophy at some point this season. It's not even,
But I think Ange does seem to get that. I mean, in his most recent presses, he seems to be alluding to the fact that, this fan base, although he might not agree, which is quite funny because he seems to be very clear on this, although he might not agree, he seems to understand that amongst the fan base in general, there's a desperation for a trophy, even though himself, he doesn't believe this would be the be-all and end-all, but he definitely acknowledges the fact that in the general consensus of the fan base, I would say those that are in the stadium, there's a desperation for it, which again, I think is interesting.
I was going to say, also the players should understand this as well. I mean, look at Sonny.
I hope they do. Yep.
He's been here for so long,
Oh,
and to be honest,
travesty.
For me,
travesty if he was to leave without a trophy. Travesty. Same as Harry Kane.
That is worse. But for me, Sonny leaving the club without a trophy is worse than Harry Kane leaving us without a trophy. For me personally, so I just feel like they need to also have that mentality, and the way that we play as well. I just feel like the boys need to play a little bit with more risk. They need to have that confidence instead of just passing every now and then. It is like robotic play. When you watch it, it's literally just, it's all about passing all the time. Do some long shots, do something creative, because we can do it. When we actually do, we succeed in getting some goals in. And that's exactly what we need to do. It's all about I feel like it's like football IQ, whatever they call it, we just need to be a bit more clever in that way and just go for it. Be confident with the ball, just go out there and get those goals. It's just so important. I feel like that's where we let ourselves down a little bit. I know we're with under Ange's system, but just kind of let the system flow through you. Like we get it.
I do agree with you. There are times, like you say there, Chris, to agree with you that you can see certain players are not willing to go with that element of risk. But at the same time, I have to remind myself we've scored 19 goals in the last 3 games. We've also lost 10 players. So I mean, something clearly is working on the attacking side of things, even though the squad is
100%.
falling apart. I mean, even Werner, like I say, has dropped down with sickness. I mean, many might not be disappointed by that. So I need to bring you in before we do turn our attention to this league fixture, which is obviously what we're here for. I think what was quite interesting that we have to bring into the fact that Spurs are going to go into that first leg without the suspended James Maddison and Pat Matasar. I think what's really important to bring into focus here is that the way in which definitely both the respective first leg and second legs will fall is that Liverpool have got a crucial game against Manchester United during one of the Premier League weeks, which I believe is just before the second leg. So I just wonder, there is that maybe feeling that maybe Liverpool won't be using the Carabao Cup as their ultimate priority this season. Is that how you would view that? Or do you think it's far too early to be taking that narrative or taking that influence at the moment? We have to wait and see where both teams are. What
are our schedule? What's the date of the game?
So, of course, in terms of both of those respective games, we've got week commencing for us January the 6th, which I think obviously for us, we're going to be coming off the back of Tamworth in the FA Cup, which again, many would say it's a definite win. It's a definite win, but with Spurs, what we're like with cups, there's no guarantee. And yeah, I think obviously for Liverpool as well, they'll be coming off the back of a cup tie. So it'll be interesting to see obviously how we deal with that. And again, you have to factor in Europa League, Premier League, and the injuries that we've got. Si, I mean, how do you view in terms of the priority for Liverpool in this competition?
Yeah, I have no idea. I think they're in a similar situation to us. I think they're in all cups, right? So
they are indeed.
They have a lot of games. I just looked through their injury list, and they got 0 injuries. Looking at January and February, we probably won't have Vicario back. We won't be able to get any new players in until Vicario and Romero will probably be back for that first game. But we won't have much more of a winger depth. I think the thing with Liverpool, in my view, is like, to me, they're clearly the best team in the league right now. I think they've lost 2 games this season, at least in the league. I think their last loss was in September. I don't think you get this trophy without beating Liverpool. So to me, it doesn't really matter if we meet them, like if we face them now or if we face them later on. They were likely to always be a team we would have to go through. I don't know. I think, to me, it comes back again to, okay, they might prioritize in a certain way, and then we might not have the options we will have. So whatever way you look at it, to me, we're the underdog, the clear underdog. And we will have to probably, work some kind of miracle to win that game. But that's the fun. I thought yesterday was kind of a miracle. I did not expect us to be that good against a team with a new coach, with that new coach bounce.
Obviously, also on the back of what sides to come in there. They've just obviously gone away to their noisy neighbours, and beaten them away from home. I know City are a bit of a mess right now, but to go away and win 2-1, you would have thought they were going to be bouncing into the game. I know they've got the situation around Rashford's future, but I agree with you on that. I think,
I thought we saw a much better team. Like the Manchester we beat earlier in the season was not this Manchester.
No.
So it's hard for me to gauge where we, and also we don't. The way it's working right now, we get sickness and injuries every other day, so we have no idea what's going to happen to that. Happen until then. So just looking at, I think it's going to be a priority for us. Obviously, he gets that it's a big deal. I think to what Chris was saying about and you were saying about the desperation for a trophy, I think it's interesting. I think one thing that I like about Ange, that I think a lot of people don't like about Ange and gives him criticism for, is he's an old dude. Like, he's got patience and he's got experience. So he knows that desperation doesn't always lead to the best strategy. So he's very disciplined in looking at it through the lens of the long term. And I know I repeat myself so much, and through the long term, his goal is to build something that's sustainably in these finals every season and can be multiple finals at the same time. And so from that lens, he's not as desperate, and he doesn't make decisions through desperations. That's why it doesn't change for every game. It's something.
Yes.
That's why it doesn't switch
up
up before that Chelsea game when we have that high line and 9 men on the pitch.
You're right. Like you say, Si,
we're desperate, and we have our long, like, we've been with this club for years. So it's the desperation is understandable, but it's his job to kind of take that desperation into account, but not make decisions from a point of view of desperation. So he's got this fine line. He's got to be respectful for the wishes, and he also understands that winning a cup and a trophy would give him a lot of goodwill with the club and with the fan base. But I think that's why he keeps repeating this. My view is always the long term.
Yep.
But being in the semifinal is still a big deal. So we'll roll up with whatever we have and do our best. Yep. And Liverpool will be an immense challenge, no matter what team they put up.
I totally agree. Look, what we are going to do, we're going to turn our attention to that league fixture now, which is, for our listeners on audio, we're building up to that right now. A massive, massive game again for Spurs in the Premier League. They are coming thick and fast over, of course, this festive period. We're going to hear from both managers, and especially Arne Slot, who shared his admiration for Ange Postecoglou, even going as far to say that he would love to see Spurs win a trophy, just not the League Cup. So before we do, we'll bring in Ange first, who did tackle the point someone made earlier about his gung-ho football. Let's hear from Ange. And I'm going to hear from Arne Slot. We'll be back with you after this very short break.
It was a crazy game. Can you, though, be that gung-ho on Sunday against Liverpool, who are so good?
I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by gung ho. We'll play our football because that's what's winning us games, and that's what we'll do against Liverpool, who are a fantastic side, going really well. Arnie's come in. It's not easy when you're taking over from somebody of the status of a Jurgen Klopp, but they're very settled. As a team, we've got quality within the starting 11, within the squad, and they've dealt with things. You saw them last week, and we were a man down. They still, have a real belief at the moment. So they're the standout team in the competition so far. But again, on our day when we play our football, we're pretty good opposition.
And I come from Holland, but I did watch a lot of Match of the Day, and I think about Gino Lav, Paul Gascoigne, Glenn Huddle, and Reece and Modric. For me, Rafael van der Vaart, Gareth Bale. They've always been a certain brand in football for me, and a certain identity. And I think Postecoglou gives them that identity back completely. So it's every time a joy to watch them. Great work that Ange is doing over there. And I hope this has been seen a bit more. And I also hope that he wins the trophy, not the League Cup. But I'm completely a fan of his team for the Europa League, because people always talk about trophies. That is so important. Now, for me, his brand of football, his style of football is so much more important. And if he can combine that with winning something, that would be so good for football in general. Because then people can stop talking about it as too attacking or whatever. How on earth can you play too attacking football? I've said so many positive things now about him and his style that if I say another thing, it seems like I'm his agent.
So there you go, an absolute glowing reference there from Arnie Slot for Ange Postecoglou. And for our watching audience and those that are watching on YouTube, yes, we are trying to teach you French in the background there. For those that are wondering, what are we trying to do on this show? Look, we try to educate you with Tottenham. We were trying to educate you with different languages. So there you go. If you're looking to learn French, stick with us and we'll try and give you more on this show. And don't panic, we are not bringing Tungi and Ndombele back into your lives anytime soon. Unless Crash Bang Wallop, me and Shawnee get any news about an Ndombele retransfer in January for your hearts. We don't want to do that to you. I just want to say ahead of that. Look, again, lovely words there from Arnie Slot on Ange Postecoglou. Some clear respect there for him, which is lovely to see. I don't think anybody would underestimate the job that he's done at Liverpool so far, Slot. I have to say it's been really impressive to see the way he has got Liverpool playing, and with only one defeat in the Premier League so far, to be top of the table, taking over from a giant in the management era, you have to say, in Jurgen Klopp. Shawnee, how impressed have you been by the way in which Slot has adapted to the Premier League and how he has taken on Liverpool as a job so far?
Yeah, so impressed. I almost knocked my entire table over just then. I think he's been fantastic. I think that if you were looking at him before he came in, the question marks around him were, is he going to transition? It's the Dutch league to the Premier League is obviously a big step up. We've seen lots of other people, players and coaches, come in and flatter to deceive. So that was the one question, and the other one was, how is he going to handle the transition from taking over from Jurgen Klopp? And I think most people would have given him the first season as a bit of a gimme to figure it out, because that legacy strength that Jurgen Klopp, that kind of almost like a dynasty that he built there, is going to be incredibly difficult. But the fact that he's come in and smashed it out of the park so seamlessly without that much help in the way of transfer.
We've just lost Shawnee there just in the background. We're going to zip over Ricardo Sai. So just to carry on that conversation, when you're looking at what Slot has done so far at Liverpool, how impressed have you been by the way he has almost navigated his way there when it comes to the squad so far?
I'm just going to continue what Sean was saying. I'm incredibly impressed. I think just, coming in and replacing someone of Klopp's stature is so hard, with his charisma, with the impact that he's had in this league, and just being as consistent as they have. I wasn't joking before. I think, to me, this is a team that are by far one of the best teams in Europe, and the way they defend, I think they've conceded something like 14 goals, something like that. Like, they're so defensively solid. There you go.
13 in the Premier League. 13. Yep.
That's
It's been phenomenal so far. They have been phenomenal. Yep.
And also, I just love the construction of the team they have. I mean, they're so lethal on the counter. They still have lots of weapons. You know, Diaz, Salah. I think Jota might be the one that's still injured. I'm not sure about that, but you know, Nunes. Yeah, they got so many weapons, and he's been so good at recognizing how to make the best out of his weapons and the things he has. So I'm incredibly impressed. I'm you know me, I'm never negative, but this is kind of this is a game that I won't be overly disappointed if we lose, because I think it's no shame in losing it. I think it goes to something like what Sean and Christina touched on. I think there's stuff that we still need to work on when it comes to maturity and the way we handle, you know, game state, and, you know, being able to be calm when we need to speed it up when we need to. And that maturity is not really there yet consistently for us. And we still have experienced players like Maddison and Bissouma. We don't know what version of those players we'll see day to day sometimes. And so if we come out there and the best version of our team is there, I think we'll give them a hell of a game. But yeah, this is one that I'm really curious to see how we'll handle, because I think it's a tough one.
Yeah, just while I bring Chris in there, just to come back to you, Shawnee, on that point. You know, you look at the players they've got there that could do some damage to us. You touched on there the transition of how, you know, Slot has really done well so far at Liverpool and the way he's managed them up until this point. Are there any players that are, this is maybe a silly question, who are worrying you for Sunday? They've got some really good players in there. Is there anyone in particular with the way and the amount of injuries that we've got at the moment does massively concern you and can cause us a maximum amount of damage? We'll just bring Shawnee off mute. I think Shawnee's got to unmute from his own end. It's all tech stuff here. We will get there. We will.
Can you hear me now?
We got you. We got you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, just to finish off the Arne Slot thing, just real quick. Like, what I think he has done, obviously, you come in and to smash it out of the park as quickly as he has, is kind of terrifying that with more time and more budget and some players, if if Salah does move on, if he doesn't, whatever they're going to do next, it's quite worrying that he's come in and so seamlessly taken them as far as he has already. What I would say with regards our chances on the weekend, for me, I think at the moment, with the shape of their team and how much of their sort of goal responsibility goes through one man at the moment, even though he's not necessarily the creator in chief, he's obviously the kind of the output merchant, the output master rather. And I think that where I would say that there's some concerns for me is, you know, the way that we play, if we do kind of pull those fullbacks in with Archie Gray probably playing on the left and then Jed Spence likely to be the guy outside him. If Mo Salah has a good performance, it's always going to be difficult no matter who's in there. But if you had a Mickey van der Ven and maybe a fit Destiny Udogie on top form, you might have some better opportunities to kind of curtail that threat. With Archie Gray, look, he's been brilliant for what it's worth. I thought he was phenomenal last night, and I think Jed Spencer started his Tottenham career 2.5 years later than he intended to. But he's been a breath of fresh air as well going forward. Where I just worry is that counter attack, that ability for Salah, their kind of key man, to do the damage he can against two relatively inexperienced players, at least playing together, playing out of position. That does concern me. And the other side, I guess, how did Tottenham get their kind of success? If you're looking for vulnerabilities in the Liverpool system, it's difficult to find them. But I think that you probably would look at and say, if you were a team that had your pick, you would probably look to target Robertson down the left. You know, if he is playing, I'm not sure if he is, but he's not the guy that he once was. And if not him, Tsimikas, that's probably a better angle for attack. And if not there, you probably go down on the counter against Trent down the right-hand side. And even though Tottenham seem to play with a lot of width and the kind of inverted fullbacks, but it allows the forward guys to get out there, I don't think Decky's at his best on the right-hand side. I like him when he drifts in. And so if you were to go with Brennan Johnson, you know, if you're looking at Robertson and thinking that's the area where you can attack, that's the area where you can have some joy taking them on as a one-on-one, then, you know, I don't know if Johnson's the guy for that. He's not really a one-on-one specialist. Neither is, and Decky certainly isn't either. He's better drifting in. So where Liverpool are probably vulnerable, their Achilles heel, if you like, if there is one, is probably in the areas that don't really fit Tottenham's system at the moment. The only thing I would say is that I think that maybe we have a good chance of kind of, if Nunes is playing at the top, then maybe you've got a good match for him in Radu Dragusin in terms of strength and aerial threat and that kind of fit. And maybe you could, if you're looking for a Sonny on form, maybe he can attack into that kind of in that space behind Trent. So it's going to be interesting. But if I'm entirely honest, with the injuries that we have and the shape of the Liverpool team, it probably doesn't fit Tottenham's best sort of version of themselves against their best version. So you just hope that there's some poor performances on the day from the Liverpool team, and hopefully some top performances from us, and we can take advantage where possible.
Yes, absolutely fair, Shawnee. Absolutely fair on that point. So I'll bring Chris in here as well, just to update on that team news that Andrew's given us in his pre-match presser. He was asked if Timo Werner will be back available. Of course, Timo Werner missed the win over Manchester United due to illness. He said, look, hopefully the boys are coming back now, as it was a late night. Timo was unwell, so we've got 48 hours to recover him beforehand. So hopefully he will. Destiny should be okay. Destiny, a doggy, in terms of, like I say, he's played a lot of games this season. I believe the most, along with, of course, Pedro Porro. So it will be interesting to see what Ange Postecoglou does do. A reminder that Sergio Reguilon was back as a Spurs player, which was quite remarkable. He actually put an Instagram out there, an Instagram message out there to say, hey, mum, I played a game of football yesterday, which kind of sums up really where we are with Reguilon in his footballing career. And one man that I think, many of us have been crying out to say, give this guy an opportunity. And you know what? I think every time Spencer's played for Tottenham, he's taken it and grabbed it with both hands. And, Ange made the point that he has been fantastic, probably deserved to play a bit more, but given Archie was having to cover for left and right back, it's not like he's coming and just filled in for us. He's actually made a real definitive impact. I just think on that basis alone, Chris, would you be in favour of seeing Spence retain his place in the 11 for the Liverpool game, or would you be maybe thinking to change it up? What's your thoughts in terms of the fullbacks for this one for you?
I mean, who can say that Spence doesn't deserve this? He, as soon as he's been, come into the team, he's completely changed the whole game. Yesterday, I thought he played phenomenal, and I'm really looking forward, and I hope to see him more and more now. I don't really know what the issue's been. I'm sure there's reasons for it, but for me, I think Spence has been absolutely incredible, and it's just such a shame that we haven't seen more of him. Even with the Conte days, he was just a shadow, and we forgot about him. So it feels like a completely new signing now with Spence, and he's doing absolutely great. And I just hope that he keeps it up now, because he really has made a huge impact on the pitch, I think. But yeah, just going back with Slot, I think it's such a rare occasion for me to actually like a Liverpool manager. But I think his words are really good, and I love the praise that he's been given to Ange. I kind of feel that their attitude is quite similar to each other, but it's going to be very nervous times to be playing Liverpool, because I think they're doing a phenomenal job, whatever Slot is doing, and he hasn't exactly had huge names of signings.
No, you're right.
But whatever he's been doing to them, it's working. And it's his first season in the Premier League as well. He's just really settled in, and I'm really enjoying the way that he's managing Liverpool at the moment. I just hope he can do us a favour now, and just maybe let us win this cup. Come on, you've just said it. Ange deserves a trophy. Give it to us. But no, it's yesterday I just thought with some players, I'm not going to pinpoint at them. Actually, I am. Pedro Porro, I'm a little bit worried about at the moment, but
doesn't he rest in, Chris? Is it a form thing for you? Is it just is it fatigue?
I personally think it's fatigue. He looks absolutely knackered.
He does.
That's what I think, and I hate it because I don't want to pinpoint him and say he's been playing poorly, or whatever. But I feel it is purely because of that. He's played a lot of games with us, and he needs a break. It does happen. So it's things like that. We need to make sure that we're looking after our players at the end of the day. It's the same with as soon as we got Mickey Van der Ven and Ramiro, we need to make sure that our players are fully fit at the end of the day, instead of just throwing them on the pitch, because it can end up to even worse complications for the player,
which we've now seen.
And yeah, exactly. And those players mean a lot to us. We're missing them massively. So we just got to make sure that we're getting breaks for these boys for real, because I keep saying it, it's fast-paced football that we're playing, and that's why it is so damn important for us to have a good backup as well. Everybody needs to be fully, full of energy for this. It's really important for us to make sure, we are looking after our players. But We just got to see with that
know,
Liverpool.
You know what's really interesting on this, Chris? I mean, do you think now, look, Spurs in a semi-final, it's not like a negative slant on it, but there will be, I think, again, as a player, and you're not a footballer, if you don't think about this thing, you've got a semi-final in the back of your mind. Do you still feel there'll be the emphasis and focus on the league at the moment? Because, we're not in the greatest of positions there in terms of the position. But, given the fact, again, we've seen in the Premier League that if you get 2 wins for Tottenham, it suddenly catapults you back into not just the top 4 race, but suddenly you're then kind of chasing down, dare I say, 4th, 3rd place. I mean, where are you in terms of our league form at the moment? It's so up and down. Do you worry that, it's great progressing in the cups? Do you think that will become a distraction in terms of the league? Or do you think, Andrew's got a way in which he will make the players understand that the league will be just as important? Because again, I just feel with the hierarchy, 100%, their emphasis has always been on our league form. They want us in and around the top 4. And if you're not in and around the top 4, we know the manager is seemingly under pressure. So where do you go on that basis in terms of the league form? Is it just as important that we try and find that more consistency in the league? As we know, our form has really been, as we can see there highlighted, loss, win, draw, loss, win. Win, loss has been kind of Spurs' inconsistency apart from those first 10 games of Ange in that honeymoon period.
Of course, it's going to be important. I mean, I'm sure Ange will be, every game is important to him at the end of the day. But I just, it is. We're all in all the cup games, aren't we? So we just got to make sure that we've got the balance for all of those games. But with the league at the moment, it's really difficult. And well, to be honest, even the cup games, I just feel it's so hard to predict Tottenham at the moment. We can go and beat City in the league, and then we can go and knock them out in the cup. It's go and beat Aston Villa as well. It's just up and down.
Lose to Ipswich.
But then we lose to Ipswich. Look, it is literally Tottenham at the moment. But I just feel like every game we're getting a lot of strengths from what we've learned from it, and then there's we go backwards a little bit. It's just we need to make sure that we're getting that balance.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's
fair.
really difficult.
Yeah.
It's honestly, I find it really hard when people ask for predictions about Tottenham. I can't predict it.
Yeah.
We could be
honestly, I couldn't call somehow I couldn't call last night. The same way that sounds silly, I couldn't really call the Southampton game. I thought that had a real banana skin written all over it. I mean, like I say, Sean is not in there as well. It's interesting because the fact of the matter is, Si, that Fulham and Newcastle have stopped Liverpool recently. So I just wanted the same question to you. I think Sean made a really good point there when he said Spurs have got to be the best version of themselves, and also Liverpool players to have a real off day for Spurs to get a result here. Is that how you view it, Si, for you going into this one, that Spurs have got to play their absolute maximum and Liverpool players have got to have an off day here for a result? Or do you look at the recent form guide that we have seen Fulham and Newcastle stop Liverpool, and being at home on the back of advancing in the Cup, there should be a decent atmosphere there, although given again, just to be very, very clear, there are going to be protests, as we are aware, for the current hierarchy and especially Daniel Levy. So I wonder how that plays any factor into it for you, if you want to comment on that.
So those games were 2 draws, right? So they didn't even lose those games. I think it's a mix of a little bit of everything. Yep. So I think it's important that Ange gets the tactics right, because I think even if the narrative is that we never change anything, we actually do. I think there's adjustments you can make. You can pick the right type of fullbacks. I think Sean brought up a couple of things. If you look at, like, the first thing I look at is who's going to dominate the ball. And I think looking at games like the ones against City, we've kind of conceded the possession and being more of a counter-attacking team, and favored being a little bit more conservative with our fullbacks, not inverting them as much. I think, Udogie, if I'm not wrong, I think he has a chance to play Sunday. I think Ange said something about he was going to play.
He said he should be okay. Game. He has said he should be okay. Destiny to play. You'd throw him back inside for you? Would you throw him back in?
Yeah, and I might put Jed on the right side,
yep,
because
he's actual position.
And a little bit, and actually a little bit more defensively aware compared to Porro sometimes when it comes to mark in, and also, you know, him not being as tired as Porro might be able to kind of hang with Diaz a little bit more. And then, I mean, if we have Johnson on and we are playing a more transitional type of game where we are play a little bit more conservative with how we press, are a little bit more of a bid block, and try to hurt them on the counter a little bit more. And I feel like that's how we've gotten success against City, for example. I think that can be successful. I do think the best version of the players we put out will have to we have to see that. I think Bissouma had a great game. If he's playing again, if we can see that performance again, I think if Kulusevski goes central and Maddison doesn't play, that's something that gives us a little bit more fitness on the pitch. I think there's stuff you can do with the formation and what players you put out that could have a great impact on this game. And then I think, you know, in terms of prioritizing the table and the point tally and stuff like that, if you look at it, and it goes back to something Christina and I think even Sean and you point out earlier about the goal difference and where we are on the table. I think if you look at it and try to analyze our season this far, I think you can see that we've scored the most goals, or at least up there with one and two up there in the table of the teams that have scored the most goals. And I think just three teams have conceded more goals than us.
Yeah.
So we have a solid defense. We have a good attacking numbers, but then we have games where we haven't shown up: Ipswich, Crystal Palace, second half against Brighton, Leicester.
Yep.
So we've still got games that you can look at and say there are total, brain dead performances. And some of that goes to injuries. I think some of that goes to the schedule, us not being able to maintain our high levels of intensity. And some of that goes to, just immaturity, which to some extent can be explained with having such a young team and being just a year into a new project. So I think the underlying numbers tells us that we should be up there, fourth, fifth, somewhere up there. We're one of the best teams statistically in the league.
Yeah.
I think that gives Ange the cover he needs, that he can point to a trend and say, even if we're 10th now, that's more a product of how even the table is right now. It's one win and we sit 6th, I think. 2 wins and we're 3rd. So I would look more at the point tally and less at the table, and look at the trends more than focus too much at individual losses.
Yep.
So I think I'm pretty confident, and I think Ange had put out a war cry when he said, I think a week ago, that we have 4 really important games that can be determined our season.
Yep.
And hopefully, and we've seen from this week that the team seems to have rallied around that war cry and are putting up really strong performances.
Yes.
So let's hope for that, and let's hope for some tactical smarts and for some luck, to be honest.
Yeah, I think people underestimate that word luck. People think, that's just a thing, you do get in football, but I mean, we are overdue it in terms of the injuries at the moment,
especially
aren't we?
Especially when we have this kind of makeshift defense. If we're lucky and we score our chances, suddenly everything looks different. If we have one of those games where we miss everything, pressure comes back to us and we perform lesser than we are. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I will say on this point, so I'm the first one to always hold accountability to, if it's the manager, the players, but at the moment, when you've got 10 senior players out and we've scored 19 goals in the last 3 games, I know given one of them is against Southampton, but at the same time, you have to recognise that whatever you say about whether you like the manager or you don't like the manager, the players are playing for him. I mean, you can't get away from that. I think it'd be crazy to suggest they're not, because you are seeing the instructions being followed to some degree, although you could argue, when players make individual errors, that's their own self-doing and self-harm to the team. But you can't sit there and say that they're not playing for him at the moment, because they most certainly are. So we'll see, of course, how this plans out. I mean, Shully, where are you on that? Before we go to predictions, where are you on the table for you at the moment? I mean, how much is that a problem when it comes to the league form, when you equate it to what we're doing in Europe, where we know we've got a couple of games to ultimately qualify for there. We've got a semi-final of Carabao Cup to look forward to. We've got, obviously, FA Cup coming soon with Tamworth in a draw that you'd favourably say Spurs should progress. I mean, how do you balance the league form for you? Is it the be and end all the league form for you, Shawnee?
Well, listen, I've always said that I think that the league is the best barometer of where you are versus your opposition in general in the Premier League, because you can't avoid playing everybody home and everybody away. And ultimately, the variance that can affect you with far more impact in cup competitions, things like bad refereeing decisions or injuries or bad weather or the draw, the luck or the unluck of the draw, if you like, all of those things play a massive part and have a massive impact in your story of your cup. If your cup runs, less so in the league, and you hope that the good is evened out by the bad, or vice versa in the league more often than it is. And I think, actually, for what it's worth, I think a lot of people just say, "Oh, it all evens out in the end." I don't think that necessarily is the case. I think if you look at the certain teams this year, you look at Wolves, you look at Liverpool. There's two different stories there around things going their way more so than they don't, or vice versa in the case of Wolves. So I definitely think that, generally speaking, though, it's fair to say that if you finish fourth over the course of the entire campaign, or third or second, it's a better barometer of where you are than just looking at how you go in the cups, because, like I say, there's too many things that can happen that are outside of your control. With regards Tottenham specifically, look, I think that I'm guilty probably of saying a couple of weeks ago, forget about the league, forget about top four. It's done. We're not consistent enough. We're too volatile, and I don't see any kind of change in the manager's style, which was very problematic for me a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm sort of warming to the idea that it is what it is. Get on board it or don't. You either like it or you don't. But after last night's performance, I'm kind of back in the bucket of I'm on board it again until we lose, and I'm off. It is what it is, right? That's the swing.
It is a bat crazy football club, isn't it? Week to week. I mean, it's just
it is
crazy.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
But look, I think you're 5 points off fourth. This season kind of feels a little bit like the Leicester season to me, when nobody really wanted it. Everyone kind of was losing to everybody else, and crazy things happen. And I think that you can see right now, Liverpool's last couple of games, they've smashed everybody out the way for most of the season. But the two teams that have come up against recently, they didn't do that well against Southampton the other night. They got past that one in a tight game. Fulham and whoever the other one was, they're not necessarily. I mean, they're better than everybody else this season, but everybody else is very beatable and has ups and downs. And I think Tottenham are part of that bucket as well. So I don't really reflect that much at the moment, at least, on the league, and think of it as too emblematic of where we are as a football club. I think the league is just a weird one, and Tottenham are going through a weird season with a lot of issues that are outside of our control, with the lack of injuries. So I'd love to see us get a strong, long period of extended minutes on the field without the other things coming in to impact us, so that we can get a real judge of where we're at, a real gauge of where we're at. But at the moment, like I say, I'm far more focused on the cups. We're in all four competitions going into the second half of the season. A semi-final, who knows? Like you say, Tamworth should be able to get past that one. And look, the Europa League as well is also something that I don't think is too much to bite off. If we can get these guys back fit, and they can, for the most part, stay fit for an extended period, then I think we've got a chance in all three competitions. And look, and the league will figure itself out as we move on.
Totally agree. Sean, let's stick with you. Prediction: what are we going for?
2-2.
2-2. Who's the bet? Who's that point better for? Tottenham or Liverpool?
Tottenham, for sure.
Okay, Shawnee, thank you so much. Shawnee, anything coming up we should be keeping an eye on the Spurs talk show? And we're seeing Bugsy around, which is lovely to see. Is it?
Yeah. She's starting her own Instagram channel, I think, in the coming days.
That's right. That's where I'm going. Bloody wrong. I need to let a dog run arse.
For me,
Chris did a great job. Chris, thank you so much. You've been a diamond for doing it for us. I can't thank you enough. I've got to say. Go on. We'll stick with Sean. We'll go to Chris. Go on. Sorry, Shawnee.
Yeah. So just quickly, in terms of the Spurs talk show, it's just as I say, if I can, I'll be putting the videos out there. If I can't, then if I go away for a little while, you know why. It's no other reason other than shenanigans. But thank you for having me, Ricky. It's always a pleasure, mate.
Pleasure, my man. Like I say, look forward to having you in January and more to come. Chris has come around to you. Chris has been looking after our Instagram a little bit for us. We're driving. Tell you what, it's all fun and games. I don't know how to even make a story, let alone put an Instagram post out. I haven't got a bloody clue. I've got to be honest with you. I'm so far behind the times. I barely can do this, normally. God.
I mean, apologies for anyone that has seen the Instagram post, but I'm trying to do my best, I guess. It's just, I mean, I'm not looking forward to Sunday. I can't lie to you guys. My prediction is not going to be probably healthy, like not something that Tottenham fans want to hear. But yeah, I'm gonna. Oh, it sounds so harsh. I'm gonna go for a 2-1 Liverpool. That's what I'm gonna go for.
And that's on the basis with our injuries more than Liverpool's form, Chris, or a bit of both in you for that?
I think it's a bit of both, and I just it's so unpredictable. Who knows? We could go out there and actually absolutely thrash them. I don't know with this team anymore. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The good thing is we are at home. I forget that we are playing at home. So I just hope that the team really back the boys on the Sunday. I know that there is a protest going on as well, which I thought I would mention. You know, because at the end of the day, we are doing this because of the love of the team. That is what it is. It's not personal. It's not a personal attack to Daniel Levy. It's because we want change. And I think a lot of people, a lot of the fans, something has sort of clicked into it. You know, we want change. And I think because we've got this manager that's come in, he's playing the football that we have been dying to have for a long time. And we know where the issues are. Like, there's not been much backup. You know, look at our bench. We've got youngsters. That's all we've got at the moment. Not saying that that's a bad thing at the end of the day. It's great. But we need also experienced players to also help those youngsters that we've got coming in. And it's even, you know, to do with, we need better, you know, with Sonny being the captain, I feel like we do need stronger leadership in our team, 100%. And you know, this is what it is all about. We're all in this all together. You know, all of us four talking about Tottenham, all the people watching and commenting. It's because we love this club. We just want the best out of it. And that's what I feel the protest is going to be about on Sunday. So, yeah, that's what it's going to be. Just, I don't want it to, everyone think, you know, it's full of hate. It's nothing to do with that. We just want change for the good of our club that we love. So, yeah. And if we're losing, just stick on the darts.
Again, a reminder on that process, 3 p.m. opposite the club shops. If you wish to join that, like I said, there's been a lot of coverage around that. I'm sure you'll see more in this coming weekend. Chris, thank you so much. We'll see you back with us in the new year. Thank you so much again for all your amazing contribution this year. You know how much we love you on here. God, how many years has it been, Chris? Is it over 2.5 now?
I think it's been over 2.5 years now. It's crazy how it started. And yeah, I love my little Spurs family on here. And everyone's comments on here is just absolutely brilliant. You guys all crack me up, and everyone I've met on here, you know, Simon and Sean, it's just, I love it. It's like we're in a pub chatting about our team. You know,
it's a lovely little community. Chris, thank you so much. All the love to you. We'll see you very, very soon. Thank you. Silas, close with you. Like I say, big game against Liverpool. We've discussed the pros and negatives, the players that are going to be obviously on show and how that could affect the game. What are you going for side prediction wise for this one?
Yeah, so I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. Let's say that. So let's go 2-1. I don't think that's taken, right? We win
2-1 Spurs. I always knew with Si's never going to come on here and predict Spurs to lose, right? He's always a positive Tottenham fan, so we have to keep that trend up. And I mean, I say, Si, for you, the takeaways being the fact that, you know, you said this earlier, if we do play to our maximum with Tottenham, you just never know, right? You just never know what kind of Tottenham is going to turn up. When we play to our maximum, as Shawnee said, a couple of players on an off day, you quite never know, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you look at the games we've had, we win big and we lose by a goal or something. So I think that that's something, if you get what I'm saying. So
absolutely,
yeah. And also just want to shout out the protest. I think a couple of weeks ago, you know, I was fighting tooth and nail on Twitter about, you know, not when the heat was going towards Ange, to kind of, let's not, you know, give Levy an easy out. Let's support the club. Let's support the team. Let's support the coach, and put that criticism toward Levy. And I think this last week, last couple of weeks, actually, I feel like the energy has been right. It's been support the team, sing Ange's name, but also put the criticism towards Levy and the board when it comes to giving him what he needs. Let's not, you know, let's break the cycle. Let's get behind something, and let's be constructive with the, not just criticism, but what we want to, what kind of change we want. What is it? What's the purpose? What is it that we want? So
I think that's really important, that point. You know, again, and it's open to everybody to want to, if they want to go, if they don't want to go. I think it's really important we make that point. You know, I don't think anybody should be forcing the protest on anybody that doesn't feel comfortable to attend. I just think it's one of those things where if you want to attend, you're more than welcome to do so. If some that aren't there yet, they're not there yet. And I think you have to respect that fact that, not everybody's tipping point is right now. For a huge period, or for a huge section of fans, it is right now. For some, it isn't. You have to respect the point that if some do want to go and don't want to go, it's open to those that want to go. So listen, we'll see how that comes on. We'll see how Spurs get on. We'll be back with you, Simon. Thank you so much.
Can I just do one thing? So
please,
instead of promoting my Twitter, just go to Last Word on Spurs and support Ricky, this kindest man in the fan base. You should just you wouldn't know. It's been a pleasure to get to meet you, Ricky. You know that, and
you, my man.
Through you, all these fabulously beautiful Spurs fans. And on that point, this fan called Paul McKenzie, he knows that I'm a Roma fan and a Spurs fan. So, and I've never talked to him. I've never met him, but just randomly he DMs me and he asks me if I want the program from the Spurs Roma game, and he mails it to me to Sweden on his own buck. And I just want to shout him out and to show you guys what a real family this fan base can be. And I just want to shout him out.
Well, John, that gives me hope there's still some really decent people in this world, because I say you don't get always those nice stories. So, Si, thank you so much for that, and shout out to that wonderful human being for doing that. It just shows there is some good still in this world. Si, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think you're back with us again in the new year. Newcastle United, a huge game, so I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Shawnee is with us in Jan, as is Christina too. Guys, there you go. We are building up to Liverpool for you. Si, thank you so much. He took it away before I did. Listen. We'll let Si take it away. Come on, you Spurs. A big weekend for us. From the wonderful Christina Zanis, from the brilliant Simon Yemain, from the wonderful Sean Butler. Simon said it. Come on, you Spurs. Have a great weekend as always. Come on, Coys.